Okay, so like imagine this. You're super rich, right? Like billionaire status. And you can just buy American citizenship, 5 million bucks. Boom, you're in. Sounds crazy.
Yeah, kind of like a golden ticket to the American dream.
Well, it wasn't just a fantasy. Then President Trump actually floated this gold card idea back in
I
2023.
remember that. It
Yeah.
definitely got people talking.
We're diving into this CNN News 18 YouTube video. It's called Trump Latest News Us Golden Visa. Trump to offer U.S. citizenship to world's Richie Rich N18G. It's classic Trump, selling this gold card with one of his
Oh,
advisors.
yeah. The language he uses is so deliberate. He's not trying to attract just anyone. It's all about the Richie Riches, the global elite.
He even throws out this number, like, if 1 million of these cards were sold, it'd generate $5 trillion.
Right, like poof, national debt gone.
Exactly.
Well, not exactly. I mean, it's not that simple. The national debt's a whole other beast. Lots of factors involved.
Yeah.
It's not like you can just erase it with one big payment.
Yeah, true. But
Yeah.
it's a catchy pitch, for sure.
Definitely. And it plays into this idea that wealth equals solutions, which is debatable.
He was also really focused on attracting the best of the best, and not just individual.
Oh, right. He talked about companies buying these gold cards for top grads from like Harvard, MIT,
Yeah.
the big names,
Exactly, like a fast track to American talent.
which raises questions about how this would work with the H-1B visa program.
Right. The one for skilled workers.
Yeah. Would the gold card be like a VIP lane while others are stuck in the regular line? It creates this potential for inequality right from the start.
And is it really fair to prioritize wealth over other qualifications?
Exactly. Like,
Yeah.
what about people with valuable skills but not millions in the bank? Where do they fit in?
It's like he's saying money talks, literally.
Yeah. And it taps into this whole debate about merit-based immigration versus other approaches. Like, do we prioritize wealth or do we consider other factors like family reunification, humanitarian needs? It's a complex issue.
It is. And he was so gung-ho about this gold card being the answer to like everything, boost the economy, create jobs, right? Like a magic wand.
But is it really that straightforward?
Well, his thinking seems to be rooted in supply-side economics. The idea that if you give the wealthy tax cuts and incentives, it'll trickle down and benefit everyone.
But isn't that a pretty controversial
Well,
theory?
oh yeah. Big-time critics argue that it often just leads to more inequality. The rich get richer, and the benefits don't really reach everyone else.
So it's not a guaranteed win-win.
Definitely not. And there's also the risk of job displacement. Yeah, companies might favor gold card holders over American workers.
So the short-term gains might come with long-term consequences.
Exactly. We need to look at the bigger picture, not just the initial influx of cash.
And speaking of potential problems, let's not forget about the elephant in the room, Russian oligarchs.
Oh, yeah. Someone actually asked Trump if they'd be eligible for this gold card.
And his response was,
Well, let's just say it was interesting. He said, possibly they're not as wealthy as they used to be.
which is kind of telling, right? Like, wealth seems to be the defining factor for him. It raises this question of who gets to decide who's worthy of American citizenship.
Right. And is it really something that should be bought and sold?
Exactly.
Yeah.
It challenges the whole concept of what it means to be American.
And it's even more complicated when you consider his stance on the EB-5 visa program.
Right. That one also offered a path to citizenship through investment.
But he was totally against it, called it nonsense, make-believe, even fraud.
It's interesting how he draws this line between his gold card and the EB-5 program.
Like his version is legitimate, but theirs is a scam.
Right. What makes one good and the other bad? Is it just the price tag? Or are there other motives at play?
It's definitely a head-scratcher. And then there's his advisor's comment about vetting applicants to make sure they're wonderful, world-class global citizens.
Oh, yeah. Like, who gets to decide what that means? What are the criteria?
And how does this tie into his criticism of the green card lottery? He and his advisor kept asking, why do we give them away?
It highlights this fundamental difference in philosophy. Merit-based versus a system that allows for chance and diversity.
So it's not just about immigration. It's about what kind of society we want.
Exactly. Do we want a system where citizenship is essentially for sale? Or do we believe in something more inclusive?
It's a big question with no easy answers.
And it's one we need to keep asking as we grapple with these complex issues.
Definitely. And that's just scratching the surface. We've got a lot more to unpack. So stick with us as we continue our deep dive into this fascinating and honestly kind of unsettling topic.
It's a wild ride for sure. Buckle up.
Yeah, it's like we keep coming back to this idea of the American dream.
Right.
And this gold card thing just throws a wrench in the whole thing.
It does. It kind of turns it into a commodity.
Yeah.
Something you can buy.
Instead of earning it,
Yeah,
like what does that say about the value we place on hard work and all that?
it definitely raises some questions about fairness.
And social mobility. Like if
Yeah.
citizenship becomes a luxury item, then what?
It creates this sense of a two-tiered system
Yeah.
where some people have more rights and privileges than others
Yeah.
just because they can afford it.
And doesn't that undermine the whole idea of America being the land of opportunity?
It challenges that narrative for sure. I mean,
Yeah.
it suggests that your chances of success are determined more by your bank account than by your talent or effort.
Yeah. It's like we're saying, if you're rich, come on in. But if you're not well, tough luck.
And that message has ripple effects.
Yeah.
You know, it impacts how we view ourselves as a society, what we value and prioritize.
It's like we're putting a price tag on the American dream.
And that's a dangerous precedent to set.
So it's not just about immigration policy,
Well,
it's about something much bigger.
yeah, it's about our values as a nation, our sense of community, our identity.
Okay, so we've talked about the economic and social implications, but what about national security?
That's another big one.
Like, wouldn't a program like this be a magnet for potential threats?
You're essentially opening the door to anyone who can afford it.
Yeah,
And yeah, there would be some vetting process,
right,
but it's not foolproof.
right.
And it's naive to think that people wouldn't try to exploit it.
So there's a real risk of corruption,
Right.
fraud, even espionage.
It's a lot to consider.
Yeah. It's like we're weighing the potential economic benefits against some pretty serious risks.
Right.
And it's important to remember
Yeah.
that this gold card thing was just a proposal. It
Right.
never actually became law.
That's true. But even as a hypothetical,
Yeah.
it highlights some fundamental flaws in our current system.
Like what?
Well, the fact that it was even considered
Right.
shows that there's a willingness to prioritize wealth over other factors.
Yeah.
And that's a slippery slope.
So it's a cautionary tale.
Yeah. A reminder that we need to be vigilant and critical
Right.
when it comes to immigration policy.
We can't just let the almighty dollar dictate everything.
Right. We need to consider the long-term consequences,
Right.
the ethical implications, the impact on our national identity.
So what can we learn from all this?
I think the biggest takeaway is that immigration policy is not just about rules and regulations. It's a reflection of who we are as a nation.
And it's something we need to approach with a lot more thought and care.
That we've seen in the past.
Yeah. We need to be having these conversations.
Absolutely.
Not just about the gold card, but about the bigger picture.
Right. What kind of integration system do we want? What are our priorities? What values do we want to uphold?
And how do we create a system that's fair and equitable
Yeah.
for everyone involved?
It's a tall order,
Mm.
but it's a conversation worth having.
It's kind of mind-blowing, right? We went from talking about this gold card idea to
Yeah.
like dissecting the whole American dream.
It's all collected in a way, you know?
It really is. This deep dive has made me think about immigration in a whole new light.
It's not just about paperwork and borders.
Right. It's about values and principles.
Exactly.
So as we wrap up here, what are the key takeaways for our listeners?
Well, I think it's important to be aware of the narrative surrounding immigration. You know,
Like the stories we tell ourselves.
exactly who benefits from certain policies, who gets left behind,
And how do these choices shape our society?
both domestically and globally.
Right. It's easy to get swept up in the political rhetoric,
Yeah.
but we need to be more critical. Think for ourselves.
Don't just accept things at face value.
Exactly. Do your research, challenge assumptions.
And be open to different perspectives.
Talk to people who have different views than your own.
You might be surprised what you learn.
And stay informed,
Yeah.
These are ongoing debates.
They're not going away anytime soon.
So we need to stay engaged.
Because ultimately, the future of immigration policy is in our hands.
As citizens,
Yeah.
it's up to us to create a system that reflects our values.
A system that's fair and equitable for everyone.
And that's not an easy task,
No, it's not.
but it's a challenge